Welcome. Let's take a look at the top story that we are tracking this hour. The President of the United States, Joe Biden, believes that his Russian counterpart is a killer and he will pay a price. President Biden sat down with ABC News for an exclusive interview with George Stephanopoulos. Biden spoke about New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, migrants, vaccines, and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now, the United States Chief Intelligence Office released an unclassified report on foreign interference in the 2020 elections. Now, the report concluded that the Russian president oversaw sweeping efforts aimed at denigrating Joe Biden's candidacy. President Biden told ABC News that he has warned Putin about a potential response during a call in late January. Now, listen to the exclusive conversation.
You know Vladimir Putin, you think he's a killer?
I do.
You know Vladimir Putin, you think he's a killer?
I do.
However, Biden also pointed out to his decision to extend an arms agreement with Russia in January and said it was possible to walk and chew gum at the same time for places where it is our mutual interest to work together.
For diplomats that I've had a chance to work with, and what we never talk about is you not only have great intellectual capacity, you have great personal courage.
For more on this, we're being joined by both our correspondent Susan Tehrani from New York and from Moscow, Julia Chapman joining us live. Julia, I'll start with you. It was quite a fiery interview by Joe Biden to ABC. Let's start with one of the explosive statements that he made. Julia, President Biden said that he thinks President Putin is a killer. But he also said that you can walk and chew gum at the same time in justifying this harsh criticism while still trying to continue negotiations on the arms deal. Will Putin share these sentiments?
Well, that's right. President Joe Biden saying that, you can have both ways when it comes to Russia. You can work with them on areas where there are mutual interest, but also that there needs to be criticism when the Russian government is seen to do things badly. And so that is why he had said these things in this interview that aired this morning. But it's been met with quite a lot of condemnation among Russian officials over here in Moscow, with Vyacheslav Volodin, the Speaker of the Parliament, the lower house of Parliament, saying that this was an insult to all Russians, saying that it was possible that Vladimir Putin was a killer. Of course, we don't know exactly what President Joe Biden was referring to when he said those words, when he confirmed the question that was asked to him, whether or not he thought President Putin was a killer. But of course, this comes at a very difficult time for Russia-US relations. They keep getting worse, despite this nuclear agreement that was signed by the two countries just after President Biden came into power in January. There have been a lot of difficult issues, and now we understand there will be more sanctions. Indeed, more were announced even today by the U.S. Ministry of Commerce, and we're expecting even more in relation to these alleged election meddling by Russia, which has been roundly denied here in Russia.
Right. Stay with me, Julia. I'm going to go across to you, Susan. Biden has called President Putin a killer. Now, this is not going to go down well with the Kremlin. And this also at a time when the U.S. administration is trying to extend this arms agreement. What do you make of this ABC interview?
President Biden in recent days has been described as being soft on many issues. Now, whether or not he was trying to assert America's position in the international community regarding some of its partners and adversaries is yet to be seen. But it was a bold statement to make, considering the fact that the context wasn't clear and considering the fact that there has always been a question surrounding the fact of the Russian government's involvement in meddling in U.S. elections. As you will remember, this was one of the pretexts of the first impeachment of Donald Trump, and there was no concrete evidence for that. That's why that the impeachment was basically thrown out. So, having a harsh stance against Russia, policy-wise, is one thing, but accusing a counterpart to being a quote-unquote killer may not bode well for a president and an administration that not only wants to work well with Russia and in alliance on mutual interests regarding the START defense treaty, but also you have the Iran nuclear deal that is in discussion at the UN Security Council. Russia has a veto power. The United States needs Russia when it's dealing with its issues in the Middle East and elsewhere. So it's yet to be seen how relationships between Russia and the United States in the Biden administration will proceed. Will it be based on sanctions? Will it be based on mutual respect? But I think this sort of set the stage on where the Biden administration wants to take its relationship with Russia moving forward, and we'll have to see how that plays out.
Stay with me. Julia, back to you. There has been an unclassified report on foreign interference in the 2020 elections. Take us through the details here, and further, has there been any reaction yet from the Kremlin?
There has indeed. The Kremlin has denied any interference in the 2020 U.S. presidential election or in any other election for that matter. The head of the Foreign Affairs Committee in the Duma, the Russian parliament, Leonid Slutsky, said that Russia has never interfered in any election in the U.S. or anywhere else, and said that any sanctions that will be issued against Russia after this report are the real interference in a state's sovereignty. So very strong words from Russian officials against this report, which essentially outlined the ways that Russia is allegedly accused of trying to interfere, trying to denigrate President Joe Biden, or candidate Joe Biden as he was at the time, in favor of Donald Trump as a candidate. However, the report did say that the Russian government stopped short of carrying out a hacking campaign as it was accused of doing in the 2016 election. Nevertheless, it did find that the orders involved in these alleged interferences did go all the way up to the top of the Kremlin, if not ordered by President Putin himself, at least sanctioned by him.
Right. Julia, thank you. Stay with me. Susan, back to you. Biden spoke about some of the issues faced domestically as well. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and the sexual allegations that he is facing. Take us through some of the details on this.
After President Biden was criticized by saying that the process should go forward and the investigations should go forward to see whether or not Andrew Cuomo, the New York governor, did anything wrong or not, he was perhaps a little more explanatory in his response, although he did mean the same thing, saying that, the investigations should continue, and if Andrew Cuomo did something wrong, then he should resign. This was the first time that the president commented on this issue, and I think the reason for that is because the accusations against Andrew Cuomo, on the one hand, the sexual harassment allegations, and then on the other hand, the nursing home deaths and orders during the COVID pandemic. The height of the COVID pandemic here in New York, the walls are really closing in, the investigations are ongoing, and there's a proceeding here in New York that's basically going forward to find out whether or not they should impeach Governor Andrew Cuomo or not. So with all of these issues happening at the same time, and New York being the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic, if you remember, more than a year ago, and all these issues regarding sexual allegations and harassment, coming from a Democrat governor that was once hailed as a hero for the nation, I think Joe Biden really could not have not commented on this issue and put out, what he said. I mean, he didn't say he should resign. He said the investigations should move forward, and then if he did something wrong, then he should resign, which is common sense.
Hello, I want to start off by saying Kal Halal Yamla, Yahweh, Basham, Yahushai, Basham Reka Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone for teaching us the truth and who rule well. Peace and citations unto the Akim that is spread around the four corners of the earth, spreading this word in sincerity and in truth. I'm the brother Quatazap Sayan, coming back through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai with another lesson, with another video, and Lord willing, this video is edifying. God. So in this video, I want to speak about the tensions that are ramping up against America and Russia, America, China, Turkey, you know, all these tensions that are brewing against America, because this all is biblical and scriptural. I'm going to go into some articles, briefly reading the headers of these articles. I just simply search Putin on RT, and I got all these articles from this past week, you know. This is, let me read this. Russia set for showdown with international law amid 57 billion UCAS oil empire battle and ruling over jailed opposition figure Navalny. Let me see this one. Biden and Blinken's unprovoked attacks on Russia and China backfires. God, this is the one that I wanted. It's lucky for the first one. Because if you live in a glass house, don't throw stones. Reading further, in attacking the moral character of Russia's president and China's human rights record, the Biden administration opened the door for critical examination of America's own troubled history. God. So what I'm reading here is that Russia and China are being attacked by Biden. You see, because Biden, as the Apostle Tahar said, when he is chosen to be president, his fangs are going to be seen. He's going to show the devil that he really is, because before the election, he was speaking all words of encouragement and, yeah, how can I say it, loftily words. But now that he's in power, you see, he comes only with grievous laws, and he's putting more fire to the war that is already been on the brink of happening in the Trump administration. You see? But this guy, he doesn't give a jack shit, you know. He's even furthering the plan that the elites have already put in place, you know, that they want to overthrow these other countries, you see. But the Most High, Yahweh, has put Russia as a guard to these other countries. And that's why when America wants to attack these other countries, they got to go through Russia, you see. Let's read a couple of other headers. Chicken Joe trends on Twitter after Biden avoids debate with Putin following killer accusations. Gone because Biden, he has called President Putin a killer, you know. Let's read it. U.S. President Joe Biden has landed in the deep fryer after bragging he called out Vladimir Putin for having no soul, a claim that led many to cry foul when the politician refused to talk to his Russian counterpart on the phone. America badmouths China as their joint talks get off to a pugnacious start, but then asks by Beijing's help over North Korea. Man, this is just the devil for you. You know, they talk shit, but then they ask for help in that same sentence. So they also attacking and mocking China. And look at this. Turkish leader Erdogan slams NATO ally Joe Biden for calling Putin a killer, says U.S. President remarks were truly unacceptable. You see, so these Turks, they're also coming up for Russia, you know, because that's their ally. You have Russia, Turkey, Iran, Iraq, China, they're all in the mix with Russia. They're all in it together. Let's see if there's more articles. And this is the remark that Biden had made after Biden's killer comment about Putin. Time to make a break in Russia-US relations. Further engagement is pointless for now. Joe Biden's yes to an interviewer's question about Vladimir Putin being a killer sounds outrageous, Slovakia, even against the backdrop of the dreadful relations between Washington and Moscow, which have been in free fall for a long time, you see? So the relationship between Russia and America is in free fall. It's been going downhill for a long time. So this World War III is brewing up, man, as it says in Matthew 24. You're gonna hear of wars and rumor of wars, you see? But be not dismayed, because this is the beginning of sorrows. You see, so all these are from March 19, the week of March 19, 2021. So all these things happened in 1 week span, you see. God, and also seeing this, I was thinking about the missiles that Iran missile. They were showing off their missiles also this past week. So all these nations, they're not scared of America anymore. They're coming with their own artillery. They're letting their artillery seen. Iran releases video of Missile City base, you see? And this is a tunnel full of missiles. Iran released images on Monday of what it said was a new Revolutionary Guards base armed with cruise and ballistic missiles and electronic warfare equipment.
نمایش اقتدار و توان رزم سبزپوشان نیروی دریایی سپاه به مناسبت روز پاسدار. رونمایی از شهر جدید موشکی، الحاق سامانه‌های موشکی و تجهیزات جنگ الکترونیک. اولین این سامانه‌ها انبوهی از موشک‌های بالستیک و
So you see this is gonna be the war that's gonna end all wars. Because in order for peace to come, there has to be war first. The Most High, he's a man of war, so he likes a good fight. So he's putting it in the kings, their minds, to make these instruments so that they can destroy themselves and that he can come and judge them in the midst of that battle. You see? And this is also something that was brewing in February and March, that America, they were accusing Russia for hacking their systems. Code deployed in U.S. cyber attack linked to suspected Russian hackers. A Moscow-based cybersecurity company has reported that some of the malicious code employed against the U.S. government in cyber attack last month overlaps with code previously used by suspected Russian hackers. See, so they're constantly aiming toward Russia, that they are bullying them or coming with attacks, but it's actually the other way around. America is bullying all these countries and Russia is set up as a guard. So without further ado, let me go to the scriptures for the answers. This is Revelation 13, verse 1 and 2. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, and that beast is speaking about NATO. God, what is NATO? NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, also called North Atlantic Alliance, is an intergovernmental military alliance between 30 European and North American countries. The organization implements the North Atlantic Treaty that was signed on 4th April of 1949. NATO constitutes a system of collective defense whereby its independent member states agree to mutual defense in response to an attack by any external party. So that's the NATO. See, those are these countries then combined. So the beast is NATO, EU, and America. So now that you know what the NATO is, this is the EU, the European Union. The European Union is a political and economic union of 27 member states that are located primarily in Europe. You see? So these three things all form the beast. So reading it again. And it stood, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast Let me read it again. It's Revelations 13, verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, which is NATO, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the names of blasphemy. Verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and that leopard represents Alexander the Greek, because that's what they say. You know, the civilization started with the Greeks, but that's a lie, because before that you already had other civilizations. But the Edomite, their civilization started with Alexander the Greek, so that's why they always say that civilization started with the Greeks. You know, their civilization. And his feet were as the feet of a bear, and that bear represents the end. You see, the end, the feet represent the end of a thing, and the beginning of a thing, that's the head. You see, so the feet represents the end, and Russia is gonna end this rulership of the beast, you know, which is NATO and the EU and America. You see, all those combined. So Russia, he is gonna bring forth the end of Esau's rulership, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and that lion represents the British, because America came out of the British. You see, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. God. And the dragon is the Roman Empire. You see, because through their military might, they sieged and overtook the other nations. You know, that's their power, their military might. You see. So let's jump to the book of Ezekiel 38, verse 1. This is Ezekiel 38, verse 1. And the Lord, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face unto Gog and the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against them. So the land of Gog and Magog, that is the land of Russia right now. That's this area right now. Because back in that time of the prophecy, then Ezekiel, he had to look towards the land of Gog and Magog. In that time, it was inhabited by Japheth, because that's Japheth's inheritance. But now, these Edomites, they have pushed Japheth out of their land, and they are in that land right now. So in that time, the prophecy was prophesied, it was spoken, but it's pursuing to this time that we're living in right now. So this is the land of Gog and Magog. This. the land of Russia. And the land and the prince of Meshech and Tubal, that represents Turkey, you see, and prophesy against him and say, thus saith Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, thy power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. See, that's why Turkey, they were coming up for the Russians, you see, in this article. Because they are allies one to another. You see, the Turkish leader Erdogan. Gone. Verse 4, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and will bring thee forth and all thy armies, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company, with the great company speaking about their allies, because Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is going to put hooks in Gog and Magog, which is Russia, because they, sometimes it seems like, okay, they're cool with America, right? But now the Most High is putting it in their heart. He's hardening their hearts, and he's gonna, put hooks in their jaws and draw them back. And he's gonna draw them back with their armies, because Russia is not a is not a country to be played with, to be messed with, because they're Russian. Their armies, they think, breed, and live for war, Those men are ferocious when it comes to war. So the Most High is going to put the hooks in their jaws and bring them back, them and even a great company, which is these allies, with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. You see, so these are all the allies. Ethiopia, Persia, that's Iraq, So that was their name before it got changed. Let me just go to it. No, Iran, Salakia. This is Iranians since Sassanid Empire used the name Iran for their country. In 1935, Reza Shah ate foreigners to call Persia by its native name, Iran. You see? So that's why Iran, they hate America also. That's why they got that city of missiles. You see? So verse 6, Gamor and all his bands and the house of Tagarma of the north quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. You see, the Most High, he has put Russia as a guard unto these nations. You see, Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, Gomer, and that's what Russia is. He's a guard unto them. So America can't just mess with these other countries, For the Most High, he has put Russia as a guard. Verse 8, after many days thou shalt be visited, in the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. So this is jumping towards the time that Israel is going to be established again. The Israelites, they're going to be put in their land, and they're going to be dwelling safely, because now, as it says, which has always been waste. Now, if you look at the land of Israel, it's a wasteland, you see. But the scriptures describe Israel as the land of milk and honey. But if you look at the land right now, it's all waste, you see. But in that time, when Yahweh Shem Yahushai is going to gather the Israelites from all you see, against the mountain of Israel, which the mountain represents rulership. You know, when these nations have a summit, that's the pinnacle, that's the top of a mountain. That's why they call it the summit. The mountains of Israel, which have been always raised. And God, this is the part, and it's gathered. Let me read from the top again. After many days thou shalt be visited, in the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought from the sword, and is gathered out of many people, because Israelites are among many people, you see. So in that time we are going to dwell safely in the land. Verse 9, thou shalt ascend and come like a storm, thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, thou and all thy bands, and many people with thee. Gone. So that's how, when they are gonna pop the World War III off in the Persian Gulf, which is in the Middle East, and that's where the Most High is gonna judge the place. You know, he's gonna judge the nations, which is gonna be in the Persian Gulf. When the World War III is popping off in there, that's when judgment is gonna proceed from the Most High. And they're going to be covering that land as smoke. They're going to be covering that land as water. They and all their bands. You see? Verse 10. Thus saith Yahweh, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought, and thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages, which is America, because America is unwalled, is an unwalled village. Because back in the ancient times, if you look at the Chinese wall, you know, that's to protect your country from intruders, to protect your country from attacks. But now America is so, how you call it, they're not worried, you know, they don't have any cares. But if you look at these other nations, they are constantly battling to stay alive. They're battling criminals and stuff like that, you know, people that want to overthrow them. But America, nobody wants to overthrow them yet, you see? But the Bible says otherwise. So this is verse 11 again. And thou shalt say, I will go to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. Gone. So that's when Russia is going to get it in their mind to attack America, you see. So let me jump to verse 16, and then I'm going to close it off. This is Ezekiel 38, verse 16. And thou shalt come up against my people, and thou shalt come up against my people of Israel as a cloud to cover the land. It shall be in the latter days, and I will bring thee against my land, that the heathen may know me, when I shall be sanctified in thee, O Gog, before thy eyes. Thus saith Yahweh, art thou he of whom I have spoken in old time by my servants, the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years that I would bring thee against them? And it shall come to pass at the same time, when Gog shall come against the land of Israel, saith Yahweh, that my fury shall come up in my face. For in my jealousy, in the fire of my wrath, have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel. Gone. And that shaking is those ICBM missiles, is that nuclear fire, is that nuclear war that's going to shake the whole earth. The whole earth is going to reel to and fro, you know. Everything is going to quake. Verse 20, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the field and all creeping things that creep upon the earth and all of the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. And I will call the sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith Yahweh, every man whose sword shall be against his brother, and I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood, and I will rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many people that are with him an overflowing rain and great hailstones, fire and brimstone. You see, that's how the prophets of Israel, as we just read, because those are the real true prophets. That's the only nation that can prophesy, the nation of Israel. That's how they prophesied that the downfall is gonna be, with hailstone and with fire and with brimstone, because they couldn't. These words didn't exist in that time. You know, intercontinental ballistic missiles, nuclear missiles, warheads and stuff like that. No, the prophets, they saw hailstone and fire coming down, raining from the earth, from the sky. So that's what they profess to see. That's what they say to see. But now, these things, those things that were written down back then, weren't for them. They are for us right now to understand. So through the spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, I started with the head apostles from GMS, Great Millstone. They gave us the breakdown, and now we understand what we read, you see, so that we can teach others. You see, so the Most High is going to bring forth the World War III by ways of Russia, the guard of these other nations, and America's going to do something to piss Russia off, and the Most High is going to put hooks in the jaws of Russia, Gog and Magog, to put the evil thought in their mind and to go against America, because enough is enough. You know, America is the country that makes up treaties, and they break the treaty in the same month, in the same week, in the same day even. You see, and these other nations, they're done with that. And even though Russia is of their own people, they treat them like there's other people, but they are the nation of Edom, the Edomites, you know. And as the scripture says, a nation divided against itself is not going to be able to stand. Gone. So to finish it off, this is Ezekiel 38, verse 23. Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai. You see? So through these events that are going to occur, and that the prophets have spoken about it, and it's going to be fulfilled, then these nations are going to know that who Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is. You see, for he has spoken it, and it's going to be fulfilled. You know, he's going to come with hailstones, fire, brimstones, which is these ICBM missiles, and in the midst thereof, that's when the real judgment is going to start upon many nations. You see? So with that, I hope this video is edifying, and I want to say Kal Halal Yamla Yahweh Basham Yahushai Basham Raka Kodash Shalom Akim.